Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
Hey there, everyone, and welcome back to the show. Our next guest here today is Dr. Marillyn Brame, who's based out of Mission Viejo, California, with her business, Visual Arts Hypnotherapy. How are you doing today?
I'm doing quite well today. Thank you, Phill.
You're very welcome, and I'm glad to hear that. So, Dr. Marillyn, tell us a little bit more here about yourself and your business and what you're offering to everyone.
Well, I'm sort of a jack of all trades here. I have my doctorate, of course, in hypnotherapy, and I have my hypnotherapy office. But then I also own an art school. I've been a professional artist for many, many years, and I find that really helps working with some of my hypnotherapy clients also.
Okay. And so you've been doing hypnotherapy for a while, right?
I'd say about 50 years.
Okay. So you were mentioning the art helps you with the hypnotherapy. Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Well, hypnotherapy, of course, is the process of using suggestions to solve problems and make changes. And if you have studied art, you will know that color is very, very important in a lot of people's lives. Color can create emotions very quickly. So when you can use color as a suggestive environment, it sometimes really helps your suggestions enormously.
All right. Good to know. So when you're helping people using hypnotherapy, what are like the main things you're helping them with? Is it like habits or something like that? Or
habits is one of the big ones. Most people, when they think of hypnotherapy, think, that's to stop smoking or to eat less, and it's used for that. But for habits, for fears, all types of interesting phenomena can be cured or helped a great deal with hypnosis. For instance, using hypnosis for bodybuilding is extremely effective. You can have one of these people working with you to manage weightlifting in maybe 20 or 30 pounds by the time you're finished, more than they would ever have gotten without it, without the suggestions. And sports, I've worked with a lot of golfers, and they recreate their moves in the office here, or sometimes out in the parks located around here. And as they recreate these in their mind, then they allow themselves to actually repeat that same recreation on the golf course. So there are all kinds of interesting things you can do with this rather than just quit smoking.
Okay. So when you're working with someone like an athlete and helping them improve their game, how often do you have to do hypnotherapy with them for that effect to last with them?
Well, the effect usually lasts, period. And I like to work with people with sports or anything that can be construed as a habit. I like to work with them at least twice a month.
Okay, I got you.
And then I give them instructions. They get written instructions. All of my clients on how to use self-hypnosis and a script that they can read off to themselves in between that time. So that way they can actually repeat as very closely the hypnotherapy session daily and still only come into the office a couple of times a month.
All right. Excellent to hear. All right. Well, what else about hypnotherapy do you think our listeners should know about here?
Well, other than the sports, which I think is very effective, test-taking. I work often with students at test time from the local high schools because if you do a hypnotherapy session using test-taking as a goal, you walk them through a complete session, like you are going into the room where the test is. You look around, you see who's in there. You sit down at these days it's a computer, used to be a desk and a pen and pencil. And you then follow the directions that you are pretty sure the instructor or the test giver is going to give you. And then in the sessions that I do, and I always like to work with them at least a month if we can possibly do it before the test is to be taken. And then you explain to them what you want them to feel at that time. And the scripts will tell them that they're really relaxed when they walk in to take the test, and they're so certain that they can ace it, they're going to do just a fantastic job getting everything right. And then you tell them, you are now walking into the test room, you are sitting down at the computer, you turn your computer on, you're listening to the instructions, and as the test starts to take place, you feel more and more relaxed. Each question is easier to answer than the one before. And depending on the person, you have to know a little bit about how this person's mind works, but that doesn't take much time for the hypnotist to calculate. And then they take this test, supposedly, maybe 4 or 5 times, and then when they actually go in to take the test, they have done this so many times and have gotten such fabulous results that they just sit down and do exactly that.
Okay. So when you help people with the test taking, do you find they always get the results that they want?
If they want to excel at the test, I don't recall any time that I have worked with the students that they have not aced their tests.
All right.
It's one of the most successful projects. And then as far as the art, a lot of my students will do sessions with me if they are creating paintings that are going into competition. And we work with design, and the effects are really spectacular at times, what they can create just by going into trance state and telling themselves that they remember exactly what designs would do what colors would promote what sensual experiences. It's just it's just a very effective tool to use for all kinds of things.
All right, good to know. So Marillyn, I've also heard that you have some sort of background here with extraterrestrials. Is that true?
That is true. I work with abductees, and very effective.
Okay.
And I have actually physically managed to go places that are either extraterrestrial or I have no idea where they are, but I use that information to work with the people who have been taken. And what you can do mostly for these people is to remove the fear. And once the fear is gone, then they can withstand actually experiencing whatever it is. And I don't even try to decide whether it's extraterrestrial or under the earth or in the earth or the FBI. There's no way really at this point to know who's creating this, but it certainly does exist. And hypnosis really, really makes a difference because most people are terrified when they have had the experience, and hypnosis can just eliminate that terror in just a couple of sessions.
Okay. Got it.
So, hypnosis, it just has a lot of uses. And do I do smoking? Oh, yeah. But it's just not the only thing that you use hypnosis for.
Yeah, everyone has that thought in their head whenever they think of hypnosis.
And probably the hardest thing to get programmed into anyone is the weight and the overeating. And everybody thinks that, you go to a hypnotist and the hypnotist will make you stop eating so much and you'll lose all this weight. That is probably the hardest thing to do, period. Because other things, sports is probably one of the most effective. I've never had that not be effective. When you're dealing with food, it sometimes takes 2 or 3 sessions even to get a minimum result.
So would you say that when you're doing these hypnosis sessions with people, that you're kind of bringing their goals to the forefront so they could accomplish what they want to do?
Yeah. And it's important to learn something about the people, about their backgrounds, and what would be the suggestion that they most likely would follow. Because there's no such thing as one suggestion for this and one suggestion for that problem. Everyone is different. You're dealing with different personalities and different backgrounds. And it's important. One of the reasons I think that I am as successful as I am is that I have a background in so many things. I worked in engineering for many years I was a technical writer and an electrical designer. And then I have all my art background. And all of this helps because I can get through and talk to the people using their language.
Yeah.
And implanting ideas that they would accept. And each person is totally different.
Exactly. So you said helping people with weight loss is probably one of the most difficult things you do. Do you know why that is, or?
Yeah, well, yeah. It's, you have to eat.
Yeah.
And telling people what they can and can't eat is always difficult. Because most people who are trying to lose weight are not getting helped by their friends or their family, except to have the friends or the family tell them how fat they are and how they ought to change. And that just makes it harder to do. Because it's then how do you expect me to do what you tell me to do? You know, I've got to eat. I'll starve. I had an interesting case. It's been some years now, but this woman came in and she could not stop eating. She ate all day long. She had to have something near her to eat, and she'd grown. I think she was about 5'4", and I swear she was that wide too. But anyway, I used a method called timeline to take her back to find when she first decided that she had to eat all the time. And we actually went out forward, and she imagined herself now as that person. And that person was a tiny little baby whose mother was not too interested in feeding her every time she was hungry. So she made the decision when she was just a baby that because she was so hungry that whenever there was food, she would eat it. Well, now she was in her, I don't know, I think 40s, and she still was eating food every time she saw it.
Yeah.
So with hypnosis, I was able to take her back, and we would go do a reverse session where she went back and imagined herself as this baby. And then we changed the whole scene by telling her that no, it wasn't true. The mother did feed her. She had enough food, and she only ate enough to solve her hunger, and she would never eat more than that. The third session of that, she started losing weight, and she went down probably 40 or 50 pounds in just 6 months.
Oh, wow.
But all I had to do was to convince her that her mother did feed her, that she wasn't starving if she didn't eat. So most people don't think of hypnosis working like that. That works well with drug addicts too, although I haven't done any for a long time. But for a while I was working with addicts that some psychologist was sending, and that was interesting because you have to explain to them in words that they will accept. So you have to find out if you possibly can, and usually you can, when they first started using drugs, why they first started using drugs. And then you actually do a reverse, taking them back to wherever that time was and giving them instructions that counteract what they thought they had to do at that time. And it takes a few months where, smoking or weight, you generally just work with maybe 3 sessions max. And but I never ever had a client who didn't stop using the drugs. So I don't know why it happens really, because I am not a psychologist or a psychiatrist, so I don't think of things that way, but I just know what works and know that you can use the information that you have about people who have the same lifestyle. And you know then that they will accept the challenges and accept the suggestions if they fit in with the terminology that you use for their type of work or their particular lifestyle. It's a very interesting profession because you're kind of all over the place.
Yeah. A lot of different people from different backgrounds I'm sure you talk to all the time.
And then, again, with the art, I sometimes will just suggest to them that, this is the time now. If you're going in this show, whatever the show it is or whatever the competition is, and I am able now, after all the years, I've been a professional artist longer than I have a hypnotherapist, and I have students now that are 13. I have 3 who are 13 and can do a professional portrait of anybody that sits down in front of them.
Oh, wow.
And they, of course, they go out and they win all the competitions they get into.
All right.
But I try not to hypnotize them, but to allow them to learn how to suggest things to themselves, which, of course, is a form of hypnotism. And anyway,
okay. Glad
I have great suggestions
glad
for
to
them
hear.
to use to produce very professional art. My students now, the youngest is 6, who already is producing artwork that can win prizes.
That's excellent. All right. Well, Dr. Marillyn, we're just about out of time here, but if our listeners want to reach out to you or find out more here about what you're doing, how do we all contact you?
Well, you can contact me by phone. I also have an email, and that is visualartsmurals@cox.net.
Okay. Did you...
And I no longer am painting. My murals were ceramic tile, and I did that for a number of years, but you have to be able to haul these heavy murals, which weigh, seems to be tons, to do that, so I'm not doing that anymore, but I have murals out all over the place.
Gotcha.
But anyways, visual arts, murals@cox.net, or visual arts hypnotherapy at cox.net.
Okay. Did you want to also share your phone number?
And I was going to say my phone number is, I think probably the art number would be the best one. It's visual art, 949-951-5971.
Okay. Sounds good. Well, Dr. Marillyn, I want to thank you for joining me here today. It's been a pleasure chatting with you.
It has been a pleasure chatting with you.
I'm glad.
And the rest of the world, whoever is listening.
Of course. Well, we'll talk to you soon, all right? Take care.
Okay, thank you.
All right, bye for now.
Bye.
Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
Hey, what's up, everybody? I'm Jason Derulo. I love that music connects to people all over the country. But unfortunately, so does something else. Childhood hunger. 15 million kids struggle with hunger right here in America. And yet, every year, billions of pounds of surplus food in the U.S. go to waste instead of going to the children in need. Feeding America is working to change this. The Feeding America nationwide network of food banks rescues this surplus of food to help provide meals to families in virtually every community in the United States, including yours. But they just can't do this alone. Join me in the fight against hunger in America. For more information on what you can do to get involved, visit feedingamerica.org. That's feedingamerica.org. Together we can solve hunger. Together, we're Feeding America. A message from Feeding America and the Ad Council.